It is racket testing time. I got the new Yonex Percept Light right here. And before I get into the details, I'll give you a quick disclaimer. Obviously, I'm going to give you the specs of the racket and also this time of the strings, because in my last racket review, I totally forgot about the strings, kind of important. And of course, I'm going to tell you why I chose the light version of this racket. Now, what I'm not going to do is to go overly into the technical weeds, so to speak, and get into the nitty-gritty super details of exactly how far the grommets are away from each other and how wide they are, and what really the composite of all the material is and how you could then customize it, because I really think the vast majority of people that I have as followers either don't really know about these details, nor do they care. And I don't care about them either. I've always chosen my rackets my entire career by what the companies said the rackets were going to do, if I agree with that and if I like it. And that's how I'm going to choose rackets. So obviously any review is highly individual and very subjective, but I'll give you the thoughts on this racket, what Yonex says it's going to do, whether I agree or not, and whether I would suggest it for the vast majority of my followers who are somewhere between 3.0, 3.5, and 4.0. So intermediate range. And that's what this video is about. Now, the Percept is the predecessor of the V-Core Pro. And it pretty much has the exact same shape, which includes the more edgier, if you will, beam, as opposed to the V-Core and the E-Zone. So that's something that I need to get used to, because very recently, mostly, I've been playing with this one. I really like the design, very simple. A couple of highlights here, pink, salmon, bronzish. I'm not quite sure what color it is. So now to the specs, 10.2 ounces, that's 290 grams, and it's a string pattern 16-19 and a swing weight of 325. I play with a grip size 2, and I got it strung actually at 23 kilos, which is fairly low, but then again, I'm not really competing anymore, I'm teaching mostly. And that's also the reason why I got the light version. And would I compete with that? Probably not. If I were still playing, I always used to play with heavier rackets, but I've really found it so much easier to teach and hit a lot. And I'm not a power hitter by any means anyways. So what I really want from the racket is comfort. I want to be able to hit with it for hours if I, for instance, play in at camps, and I want it to be maneuverable, and I want it forgiving. And that's exactly what this line, the Percept line, is. It's the comfort line of Yonex. Strings I'm using are the Yonex Speed 16 gauge, and that was a little bit by accident because I grabbed the wrong set. Usually I play with the Rex's Comfort. I look more for the comfort, the forgiveness, and the help basically that the string can give me, and just having a good solid feel. I don't necessarily need or want to hit the ball super hard when I teach. And I think that actually should also be the desire of the players, the level of players that I'm making my videos for, because power is really not what wins you matches at those levels. Not missing is. And for that, obviously, you want control. Obviously, if you have a lighter racket, you can swing a little faster. Makes it a little easier to maneuver. And on a lot of really lighter rackets, I feel they're flimsy a little bit. But that's not what I'm feeling here at all. So it's a really solid, compact contact point. And let's see, if I'm not necessarily focusing as much on myself here, do I feel like I'm making solid contact? Well, on that one, that was a little off, but it still feels like I'm not getting too many vibrations into my arm. And that's another thing, of course, that I'm looking for. I have issues with my shoulder, with my elbow, and I definitely don't want to feel that when I'm hitting. So far this is really a full contact, which I like. A thick contact. Not sure if that translates into what I feel here, but it's really nice and solid. So two features Yonex has added to this new Percept line, and one is called the SERVO filter, which claims that it's getting rid of unwanted vibrations. For me, that falls into the category feel. I do have to say it feels, as I said, really solid. For me, that makes a thick sound. It's not pingy, it's not like a high-pitched twang. And I do feel that I have control over the racket even when I'm hitting a little off center, which happens quite a lot when I teach because I'm paying attention to my client, of course. Other feature is called the stiff racket face design, which does exactly what the name implies. It makes the racket head a little, the loop a little stiffer, but by no means that means that you have a plank of wood in your hand. The frame on the shaft, the grip is still very flexible, and that whole idea is to give you more forgiveness when you're hitting it not quite center. And of course the isometric shape of the head is giving you a bigger sweet spot. Also, of course, want to see what it does when I'm varying spin, because that, of course, is important for me. Ooh, and that is nice and sticky there. I like that on the slice. So just picking up the pace here a little bit. And that, of course, helps when, ooh, let that drop. When the racket is easy to maneuver. And I definitely feel that I can do that. Ooh, little known fact. When I test rackets, my backhand is the most important factor. I don't know, that's how I've always done it. But I felt my game depended on my backhand a little bit more than actually my forehand. Because my game was more based not on power, but on control and variability. So I need to know what the racket obviously is doing on my backhand. And right now it's doing really well. It's pretty crisp on the slices. And really important for me, I can swing. I can flatten it out a little bit. The control that it claims it has, it definitely does have. Another really important part of my game back then were volleys, but volleys are still a thing that I do a lot when I teach, because that's one way, of course, for me to pick up the intensity and the pace for my player, my client. And I've set the machine for varying paces. What does the racket do when I have to move a whole lot and generate my own pop, basically, by moving up to the ball, but also when I get a ball drilled to my feet, is that racket stable? Can I pick up balls with control? Yep, that's solid. Yep. Yeah, this is a good racket for volleys. It's light enough, really, that I feel I can just stand here and manipulate. Especially for doubles, that's a benefit. Yep, that's rock solid. Of course, you got to get your body weight behind it as well. Yeah, not flimsy at all. I like that. And I don't know if that ever comes across in a video, but the sound of the racket is really full, really, yeah, compact. That's the best way that I can describe it. And I really like that, because the last thing I want is feeling like, ooh, I have like a badminton racket in my hand and the ball is bullying the racket. Even if it's a lighter weight, I think the racket is doing a really great job controlling the ball, even if I'm hitting them a little off center. So I'm also going to hit a couple of serves, just nice and easy, just to warm them up, because usually I feel on the serve, that is my most quote unquote dangerous area, meaning that I have issues, shoulder, elbow. that I feel when the racket is not helping me there. So let's see how that goes. Yep, feels solid. That's good enough. That's all I need to know. That racket helps me on the serve, and I really, really like that. That was not swinging very much. That was not trying to get pop on the ball. However, it's given me enough stability, control of course, but I think those were pretty okay serves for what I'm trying to do when I teach. Now, what do I think about this racket? Yonex is really making it difficult for me to make up my mind with which racket I want to play on a more regular level. And now I'm torn again. I had kind of settled on the V-Core, but now I may have to go to this. For what I'm trying to do, to teach camps, that's 4 or 5 hours a day, I am using this racket because I can feel I can swing faster with a lighter racket, and I still have a lot of control. And my shoulder, my elbow feel okay. And usually I feel that fairly fast, meaning after 10, 20, 30 hits, just kind of feeling there's something that I don't like necessarily. Hasn't happened. Now, of course, when you're choosing a racket, I would suggest that you play with it a little bit longer. Play with it in a drill, in a hitting session, in a match. Try it out a little bit longer. But for what I know about myself and how I play test rackets, I know within the first 1 or 2 minutes if I even want to continue hitting with it. And I want to continue hitting with this racket. So I think Yonex, again, you're making it really difficult for me.